I will say this over and over. You are an a-hole if you're dumping on McCullers for this. You are. I get that some people are annoyed, and these are generally people who are more cynical than me, which is saying something, by Lance McCullers' media savvy. Like, he knows what to say to pander to this fan base, right? Maybe it's gotten a little bit tiresome, but the guy was a major part of this Astros run. Maybe not the whole way through. Obviously, the last thing we saw from both he and Justin Verlander in the playoffs left a lot to be desired. But there's this weird way that Astros fans react to both McCullers and Verlander. And I'm not saying it's everybody. I'm just saying it's enough people where it's noticeable. And I think it's a bad look on this city. I'm not saying you have to be thankful for everything the guys did. And you are totally allowed to be frustrated. But I don't know. There's this element of Lance McCullers is soft. What the hell can you do about a forearm injury, especially if the forearm injury isn't taken care of? Is that because of the Astros, who I think you can make a pretty strong argument based off of their track record that they are generally averse to surgeries? They don't want players to have them. There's something about that where I don't get why people will focus on Lance McCullers. Is it McCullers' fault he signed that contract? Or is it the fault of the people who gave him that contract that this is now a bad deal on the books for the Astros? And yet, there's enough ire directed at McCullers, at Verlander, hell, even at Carlos Correa, where I'm like, really? We're going to be like that? With people who were here? It's like you're from Seattle. This city and hospitality go hand in hand. It's not the prettiest city in the world. I think we all know that. It's also hot as balls, but we sure as hell treat people the right way, right? That's what I love about it here. I mean, that's what I missed the most when I was up in Seattle. People in Seattle are cold bitches. And not all of them, but there's a lot. There's a lot of them like that. And here we are, these spoiled people that follow the Houston Astros, who are like, yeah, Lance McCullers can piss off. Yeah, Justin Verlander can piss off. I hate that. I really do. I think it's unbecoming of a city that is all about, like, what we saw in Hurricane Harvey, coming together and being, like, actually there for our neighbors, even if we don't know them that well.
I think some of it is because the Astros, were, like, the most hated team in baseball, still probably are the most hated team in baseball. And so just all that hate directed at Astros fans make them lash it out, and that mixed with they're still good. Like the Astros, like they still think that they can, and Astros fans still think that they're gonna win World Series, which they might. And when you look at like Rockets fans, don't do that to guys on the way out. It's because now they've had 3 years of being the worst team in basketball, and Texans fans don't do that because they had also 2-3 years of being top 3 picks. And so I think that's part of it, is that the Astros fans are still in this like bleep everybody, we need to win the World Series. And so when guys leave, Justin Verlander goes to the Mets, and I guess Correa goes to the Twins, which I guess are leading the AL Central, but they're teams that are, at least in theory, threats to the Astros actually winning a World Series. And Lance McCullers not pitching is a threat to the Astros not winning the World Series. I think that's what it is. The Astros became like a very toxic fan base because of the toxicity thrown at them. And then also they still have expectations.
And you would think that with all of that being said, that the anger would be directed outward, especially due to the cheating accusations. And yet, there is a weird level of vitriol. Not a lot, it's not the majority, but enough directed at McCullers, Verlander, and Correa that I just will never understand. I really won't. I'm not saying you have to be loyal to these guys for life, but these are 3 of the most important figures in Astros history for maybe not the totality, but they all had their moments. Correa had his big hits. Verlander had his big moments in 2017. McCullers had his big moment against the Yankees in 2017. All of those curveballs right in the Yankees' face. Steal that sign, bitch.
And I think that people, after this Astros run is over and Verlander's gonna retire in like 2 years after his Mets deal's over, his career's over. I think after that there'll probably be a more like, and also the Astros are probably gonna be bad at some point. That there will be like a new like, you know what? We were too hard on these guys. Like we'll welcome back with open arms, especially like Correa and because he was the loudest.
Yes.
Defender.
He defended the wall harder than anybody. Like that he
also,
got that any. I don't know if that was true, Sean, with that booing thing
I
in
think
that
that's
game.
like such a small vocal minority.
I could not find video of it anywhere to the point where I felt like that was some sort of red herring or false flag. Like, hey, I'm an Astros person online and I'm trying to get clicks. There were enough people that said like it did happen, but like that to me,
I think it was blown out of proportion.
That had happened, but that had happened by anyone, unless it was a Twins fan, which actually would make sense because he sucked for the Twins.
Oh, some one a-hole on Twitter posted something like, okay,
well, that's
cool.
That is news media in 2023,
cool.
Sean. Like, people are upset about this. And then, like, Booger Balls 42069
like
says,
tweets.
like, I hate him and I hope he dies. And then all of a sudden,
I can't believe Mark Wahlberg's not in the newest Transformers movie. People are outraged that Mark Wahlberg is written out of the Transformers movie.
It's somebody who, like, no offense, doesn't matter who tweeted that.
Doesn't matter, and, like, a thing that no one actually cares about. Yeah, no, that is what a lot of these, like, outraged news headlines are.
If you don't know how long Yordan Alvarez is going to be out, because how does anyone have any faith in the Astros training staff right now? And maybe that's unfair. I am not a learned doctor. My sister is. I am not. I don't know what the hell's going on behind the scenes in the Astros training room. All I know is that the amount of information that actually makes its way out into the open is always confusing. And you could say, well, the Astros are just trying to protect their players. And maybe it's that. But I feel like sometimes when you choose to go out of your way to not be transparent, there could be something else that you're trying to hide. And I'm not suggesting the Astros are like North Dallas 40, just with a big old cabinet of needles and all sorts of things behind the scenes, or they're Buddy Kilmer in Varsity Blues. I'm not suggesting that they're committing malpractice or anything like that. But I think there's enough of a track record to ask if this training staff and the medical staff have been good at their jobs. I'm just asking the question. I'd love to have one of them actually talk to us and explain what's going on. I think a little transparency actually would help the Astros out. And maybe they, like the Houston Texans, believe that the best way to deal with anybody on the outside is to feed them bleep and keep them in the dark. But I think with this most recent Lance McCullers injury, something that he suffered in 2021 that's going to require surgery and has seen him already miss all of this season and most of last year, you got to wonder what the hell they were doing. And I get that there's some frustration directed at Lance McCullers because of the lack of availability. I think someone texted in, listen, with Verlander, with McCullers, fair or unfair, the amount of money they're getting paid and the lack of availability, that's a reason for a fan to get mad at them. But it's not their fault when it's an injury. I strongly believe that. Injuries happen. You can't control it. And with pitchers, it happens a lot. It's a very unnatural movement as it is to throw something as a human being. Now add on top of that you're throwing from an elevated mound and twisting your elbow and doing all sorts of crazy things to give the ball movement as you deliver that thing to home plate. Injuries are going to happen. You can't predict them. But could injuries be fixed in a better way? Is this because Lance McCullers did not want surgery? Going all the way back to 2021, you can understand why, because he's had the Tommy John surgery before. Maybe he just had Tommy John surgery now. The Astros were even vague about the surgery. I think it was a bone spur that was giving him some bad feelings in his forearm. Who knows what the hell actually happened here? But I know some people are directing their ire towards McCullers. I am directing my ire towards the Astros. You know, I feel like there have been some nagging injuries that players have had for months, if not seasons, multiple seasons. And I don't think that they've always addressed him. I'd point to what was going on with Yordan Alvarez, and his hands. Seems like that was something that was suffered in July, August of last year, and it seemed like it was a problem to begin this season. And now we have Alvarez on the disabled list with an oblique injury. Okay, well, what's the oblique regimen? I just have questions. This is not me saying they're bad. I have no proof to say, evidence to say, yes, these guys don't know what they're doing. But if you just look at the timeline with Lance McCullers having an injury in 2021 that has seen him sidelined for most of 2022 and all of 2023, how do you not look at them at all? How do you not think about them?
I was going to say, we might not have enough evidence because obviously, A, we're not medical professionals. B, we haven't seen the documents. And again, if we saw the MRIs or whatever, we wouldn't know what to do with them. But there is enough just from the outside looking in of there's enough to question what exactly they're doing. In the press release with announcing the Lance McCullers injury yesterday, it specifically referenced that is the same flexor tendon injury from the 2021 playoffs. What are we doing, guys?
Right, exactly.
So
that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, what? That is crazy. This happened 2 years ago.
After that happened, then there's the lockout, which sure, I guess that pushed back any medical procedure he could have possibly had. And then we sat here all of the 2022 season being like, oh, I wonder when Lance McCullers is going to he's 3 weeks away. He's just 3 weeks away. And 3 weeks passed. He's just 3 weeks away. We'll have more at the end of the month. And then we go through all that charade, and he pitches 8 games in the regular season. I think 3, maybe 3 in the postseason. And then we do the same thing all over again. Another offseason of not knowing when he's going to pitch. Or not even another offseason. Another first day of training or spring training where we don't know when he's going to pitch. And it took until June 15th for us to have knowledge of what this injury is. And by the way, he's going to need surgery. He's going to be out 6 to 9 months. That is mind-boggling. The process is just absolutely absurd.
And maybe it's an isolated incident, but to me, I mean, how do you not ask a question about the Astros training staff and medical staff coming out of it? You should ask at least one. What are they doing?
Yeah, just what is? Just have someone explain what happened there. Why did this? Why did we take the road that we did? Is it they wanted to avoid surgery in 2022, and so he just rehabbed it, and then kind of not pitched through it, but pitched without needing surgery off the rehab. Somewhere along the way, developed bone spurs, or a bone spur in there, and just pitched through it, or was it during the off season? And if it was during the off season and spring training, why didn't he just have the surgery then?
Exactly.
Did he try to rehab it again? And then, even though the first rehab obviously didn't work and took forever?
And you got to wonder, hey, could this have cost the Astros in, I don't know, the World Series or the playoffs, given that he didn't look great in the playoffs because they didn't do this? And he pitched anyway. I mean, it doesn't look good for them. And again, we're not medical experts. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But I think it is totally fair to raise questions. And I would rather you ask questions and direct your ire that way as opposed to at the player who...
He just wants to play.
Wants to play, exactly. Do you think he wants to be off to the side? It's got to be awkward as hell to not be in the Astros clubhouse, especially considering it seems like he's got some pretty damn good friends in there. What's great about this team is guys just consistently step up due to injuries, due to guys leaving in free agency, and but for whatever reason, there is a specific axe to grind with Lance McCullers, with Verlander, and sometimes even with Carlos Correa, and I will never understand it. You don't have that energy for George Springer. You don't have that energy for Charlie Morton. Why are these guys different? Is it entirely because of the contracts? If it's that, I think that's unfair.
Or is it because it does seem like it's injuries, because it's Correa, massage, whatever. That's mostly people want to joke about it, but he also he would have missed 25 games a year at least. And then you have Verlander, who missed all of 1 year.
And then there was the element of him not being with the team during the World Series. Mm-hmm. And that to me, okay, that's of all the things we've talked about. that is actually something to be annoyed by, but it's just annoyed
And
by
just
it.
naturally psychologically, like McCullers, Astros draft pick, Correa, Astros draft pick, Springer, Astros draft pick. Like Verlander's the one that is not an Astros draft pick. So if you want to say that plays a part in it, I could see how like psychologically that makes some sense. That it's like he's not someone who came up with the team. But is it just like injury? Like for whatever reason, just injuries were like bleep you for getting hurt. Like I don't know what it is. But also Jordan doesn't have that.
That's a great.
He also hit
point.
a home run to win a World Series, but still.
That's a great point with Jordan.
Maybe if he misses a playoffs or something, maybe it turns against him.
Guys, I think you're a miserable F word if you hold somebody getting hurt against them. Really. It's another thing if it's JD Drew we're talking about. For those who don't know who JD Drew was this phenomenally talented outfielder, but whenever he was slightly less than 100%, he wouldn't play. We're not talking about serious injuries right here, like a forearm injury that Lance McCullers was dealing with for, it seems like, 2 years. We're talking about a guy who, if he wasn't 100%, he wouldn't play. Oh, I woke up, my back feels funny. Not playing. That is different than this. And there's an element of just, I think, vitriol that's unfair. If a guy's hurt, it's not his fault. It's his body's fault. You can't control what your body does. How many of us have suffered a weird injury while just walking? Walking! It happens. You can't hold it against you or your friend. Oh, damn it. My best friend, he stepped and rolled his ankle and broke his ankle before my wedding, and now he's in a boot at my wedding and he's a groomsman? What kind of tux are we going to get for it? Like, it's that.
Bleep Steve.
That is the same logic.